Hello and welcome to the Shack News Chattycast, the podcast that's all sunshine and rainbows today. I'm your host, Steve Watts. With me this week, Daniel Perez.
I'm back.
We've got a small cast this week. We might be joined by more midway through the show, but for the time being, it's just us. And we started on time, so take that, Chatty. Anyway, this is the Chattycast. If you don't know what the Chattycast is, here's how it works. Every week, Ozzy starts a thread in the Shack News Chatty. His username's Ozzy Mejia, if you need to look for it. And then you guys suggest some topics, and then we chat about them. So, Chattycast. This week, we're going to talk about some E3 unpacking after our crazy blur of a week last week, and some other, various sundry things. But before we get to any of that, we're going to talk about what we have been playing. And I think we both just kind of been playing the same thing. So... It starts with a B, and it rhymes with Catman. Daniel, what are your thoughts so far on Batman Arkham Knight?
I've been enjoying it. I think I'm about maybe 2 hours into it. One thing I definitely felt right off the bat was the Batmobile is just overly used. Every little aspect of the game asks for the Batmobile. Then you get to an area of the game where it goes, all right, well, you can't come here with the Batmobile, so go to the island, make sure the Batmobile can get here, and then bring the Batmobile over. It's just too much Batmobile.
The Batmobile. Yeah, I mentioned this on Twitter. This was like the primary criticism in our own review, which you can read on shacknews.com. But it was the primary criticism in our own review, and I think a lot of reviews, is the Batmobile feels kind of shoehorned in, and I think that's probably mostly because of what you mentioned, like hey, find a way to get the Batmobile over here now kinds of things, which I think I said on Twitter something to the tune of like, that makes it feel less like this rad tool that you have and more like it's just this thing you have to lug around. Like it's like Batman is like a tuba player, and you know how the tuba player in marching band was always like the poor guy who had like this gigantic thing on his back. That's what it feels like.
It's even more weird when I've gotten to the point where you start some of the Riddler challenges to save a certain character, and there are some things that you have to do that involve the Batmobile. So, but what I don't understand is while you're in the Batmobile, he even says, okay, now I'm learning more about the Batmobile, but the challenges
How did you design this challenge?
Are for the Batmobile. So it kind of doesn't make sense.
Even by the fairly loose definition of the term from the Riddler, like races are not riddles.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how fast can you go? Pretty fast. There's no real answer.
By no definition of riddle does that count. So yeah, it's weird how like they I think this is just an example of how they like really like put the Batmobile into every corner of the game in places that it doesn't necessarily fit naturally. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, it provides a little bit of a variety instead of just always flying above the city, or which in this one, because of the better grapnel boost, you can really like basically fly above the city.
Yeah, pretty much.
But like, okay, sometimes you're driving, sometimes you're taking out tanks for some reason. Unmanned.
Man, there are a lot of tanks too.
Yeah, there are a ton of tanks. As Stephen Wong pointed out, Batman somehow did not notice this. like the U.S. military worth of army moving into his city. That's pretty impressive. But yeah, okay. So we're bashing on the game a lot. Maybe we should talk at least a little bit about what we actually enjoy about Arkham Knight. So what brings you back to playing it, even though you have these kind of concerns about the Batmobile? And I totally slurred there. I'm like, Batmobile.
Well, I definitely still love the combat. The combat is so visceral and so personal in a way where no matter who you're fighting, there's always like 3 other people right behind you about to take you out, and you can just flip around and do some crazy moves as long as the controls pretty well. So the combat is still spot on compared to the other ones.
Yeah, and I mean, I think more than most Arkham games, this one just kind of throws you in and like really assumes like what you're doing already. You know how these tools work. They give you like the most surface level tutorial you know.
Mhm.
But mostly it's like if you're playing Arkham Knight, you know how Batman combat works, um,
Yeah.
and you know his arsenal of tools. And he starts off, they don't Metroid him or whatever, or they take away all of his tools. You start off with like a fair number of all the stuff from previous games, and so it's
Mhm.
actually been kind of an adjustment for me, like getting back into the groove. Like
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
last night, I got to a part where there was the line launcher, and I was like, where am I supposed to go? I don't understand where I'm supposed to go. And then like a tooltip came up that was like, hey, remember you can like line launch and then jump off of it and then change direction in midair and line launch somewhere else. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
Yeah. I think I prefer reminders rather than straight up tips. I rather the game assume I know what I'm doing, and then if I
Yeah.
don't, it goes, hey, by the way,
Give you like 30 seconds, and then if you haven't figured it out yet, it's like, all right, here's what you need to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, like you said, the combat is just very like visceral and satisfying the way that it feels. It feels like you're beating up a bunch of thugs. And we've
Right.
seen so many games imitate that combat system with mixed results. I think Shadow of Mordor, Shadows, I don't know if it's plural, but
I think there are more than one shadow. Yeah.
Shadow of Mordor, whatever, I think was probably the most successful at imitating the Batman combat, but it still wasn't quite the same. Like
Yeah.
this is the leader for a reason. Like they're the ones that did it right and best and first.
Hmm.
And I'm not very good at it, so I still get to the point where I'm like, okay, I know there's all sorts of like flippity do combo shit I could be doing right now,
Hmm.
but mostly I'm just gonna like punch in different directions.
So I'm assuming when there are like 30 thugs coming at you at once, you kind of freak out.
Yeah, a little bit. Like like I get to the point where they're all on the ground, and then I just like kind of press in a random direction and hit the punch button, and he'll just like jump over there and punch that guy again, and then it press in the opposite direction, and and you keep doing that, and eventually they all go down. But that's like the worst. That's like the worst way to do it because you don't get any like multipliers or anything.
No, it's not flashy at all. You're very straightforward.
I need to get my
Just punch
I need to
him.
get my flashback. Yeah, I do the combo takedowns things too, but the using your gadgets in combat thing, which they have those shortcut commands for. I never got good at that. I would have like maybe one or two gadgets that I leaned on, and I would remember the combination for that. But I wouldn't just be alternating like batarang, explosive gel, line launcher, blah blah blah. Like I never got that good. So,
No, in with
at least
Arkham
not
Asylum,
willingly. I might press a bunch of buttons.
with Arkham Asylum, I definitely got into the whole combo thing where I was using the explosive thing, and then I was using a batarang, and then I would bring a line in and bring him in. I was like really heavy with the combos, and like you said earlier, I kind of need to get back into the groove of it because I haven't played, Arkham Origins. I played a little bit, but I didn't get too into it, so I really need to. I think it's been 2 or 3 years since City, so I have to kind of get back into it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's cool. The combat system is cool because it makes you feel like Batman, but it's also just like they capture that sort of is it Bruce Timm, the sort of animated universe so well. And they've been doing that since the beginning. At this point, they sort of spun it off so much that it's its own reality.
Yeah.
They've Arkham City, I think, more than any of them proved like, okay, we're taking this in our own direction. We can do whatever we want.
Right.
Spoilers for a several-year-old game, but they killed Joker, and it's like, okay, yeah, you're marking this as your own. Like this isn't something that you feel like beholden to keep consistent with any other continuity. This can be like its own standalone story. And so in this one, which Rocksteady has said is going to be their last, and that they've been saying that the whole marketing campaign is this is how the Batman dies. It actually raises the stakes. I'm still skeptical about what that means.
Yeah.
But and whether or not that'll actually come true. But they do, they've established it well enough that it raises the stakes that you believe that might actually be true.
Yeah, that's true. Another thing I like is the team up combo system where you can fight alongside an ally or an assumed ally at the time, and you can kind of switch back and forth between the two. I thought that was very cool. It kind of gives you like a hint on how another character would fight. I mean, we've already experienced Catwoman fighting and Harley
Yeah, I
Quinn.
mean, we're going
do
to
we
go
experience Harley
straight
Quinn?
light on spoilers here because we're not very far and we don't want to spoil people anyway. But there is
Right.
a point that you get to like fight alongside Catwoman,
Hmm.
and it's like a you're controlling both characters and sort of like switching off, and whichever one you switch to, the other one just like immediately becomes AI controlled, and it's a really cool fight. And I hope there's more things like that throughout the game, or at least in the challenge rooms, because that was one of my favorite sort of combat moments of the game so far. So yeah, Arkham Knight. Also, it looks
That's what we're playing.
Yep, it looks a whole lot better than the previous games, obviously, because it's on the new generation. Unless you're playing on PC. But when they first started and the Batman was in the old suit, you know, his old Arkham Asylum / City suit, I was like, this does not look as good as I kind of expected it to. But then, you know, not that far into the game, you get a supply drop that's this new suit, and you see the close-ups of like the pecs and the
plates of armor moving around,
the hooking the belt, the classic like Joel Schumacher putting on the armor shots, and it's like, oh, okay, this is, you know, they paid more attention to this suit because this is the one they actually spend the majority of the game in.
But after seeing that segment, does he have the new suit over his old suit, or is this completely new suit? Did he basically?
That's a good question. Did he just leave his old suit laying around?
I thought when I was watching it, I thought, wait, did he just put a new suit over his old suit? So then when he has to take off the suit, he has to take off like layers of suits?
I think it doesn't look bulky enough that he's wearing two suits. Maybe he left the old one inside the pod that the new one came in, so that no one.
I don't know, man. I think it's two suits.
So Rocksteady, get in touch. Let us know if Batman is wearing two layers of suits.
There's extra padding, you know. 2 boots.
And neither of us are playing on PC, I don't think, but that's been having a lot of issues this week that we should probably mention. It got bad enough that WB actually stopped selling the game on PC. So so that's a pretty clear sign of like we done fucked up. But yeah, I mean, our own review was on the PC version, and Josh made it through fine enough to write the review, and he was, you know, fair and even-handed and said, you know, this is only one platform, so I don't feel right having it ping the score. But he did mention it in the review, like, hey, this is a huge issue. So is this, what do you think about this whole PC kerfuffle? Is this, you know, PC wasn't the lead platform, obviously. Is this yet another indication that we've seen so many of lately, of just games launching broken? Is it like inevitable at this point that at least one platform is just going to be broken for all these major releases?
It's really unfortunate. I mean, everybody was just looking forward to Arkham Knight for so long, and to see something like that happen to the PC version, which
not to mention with Rocksteady
doing
this wasn't like when a sort of B team took over Arkham Origins. This was like the major team. You know, this was the people who made the series. But they outsourced
the
PC version. But it's like when you have Rocksteady's name on it, you expect a certain level of quality. You know what I mean?
Right.
And yeah, I can definitely understand why that let people down. I mean, hopefully they get it fixed quickly. You just reported today, as our newsman, you just reported today that they
both NVIDIA and Rocksteady are working
they're sort of recruiting as much hands on deck as they can to get it fixed.
Yeah, it's really impressive that NVIDIA especially says, you know, we have QA people ready whenever you guys want to send the updated version over for us to check out. We can help you. So it's you know, they really don't have to. You know, they could just rely on Rocksteady, but
they want it to be a showpiece for their stuff, and so
yeah,
it makes sense. Yeah, so that's what we've been playing. There we go. Have you been playing anything besides Batman at all?
I still play The Witcher, but since
I was sort of playing The Witcher up until the point that Batman came out, because I don't have the time to trade between two games that are that big.
right. And I also know Batman isn't going to be a very long game. I'll just go straight through the story, maybe do a little side thing here and there, and then, you know, I can put it in the back burner, go back to Witcher.
Yeah, I figure Batman will be like, okay, this will be my I finish in like a week or two kind of game.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I go back to Witcher, which will be like
2017.
yeah.
It'll end it. I finally finished it. You're in your rocking
I feel
chair.
like I'm going to be like slowly working my way through in between any other game that comes out, because there's no way I can be like, I can't play anything else until I finish The Witcher, because I would never play anything else.
There's no way. And I think I said it before the last time I was on the podcast, but I've already accepted that it's going to be my game of the summer and probably of the rest of the year. Whereas, it's like you and Hearthstone. You're always going to go to it no matter what you're playing.
I mean, the sales pitch for The Witcher, which as an adult with like limited free time, I was like, that sales pitch doesn't really say anything for me. Like I know they were trying to go after people who are like hardcore RPG enthusiasts, but their sales pitch for The Witcher was like, you will never finish this game. It is like, frankly, this game is too long. Like that was their sales pitch.
We haven't finished it. We don't know how it ends. What?
It's infinity hours. Good luck, And I was like, that doesn't really do anything for me. I don't look at a game and think like, I guess this is how a lot of people evaluate their gaming experiences, but it's like, how many hours of enjoyment will I get out of this? Right. That's not how I really look at games. So I was never like, hooray, this one will keep me busy forever.
Anything else ever.
Yeah. But I am enjoying it enough that I want to see it through and get to the end. I just think that it's going to be a slow process of playing it in between whatever else comes out and whatever like duties I have for, reviewing or whatever.
Oh, that's the worst part too. When you finally have time, and then all right, do a review. Like, I have time now.
Yes, exactly. And then you have to play like, well, this is like the epitome of first world like game journal problems.
Yeah, exactly. I know we sound.
I can't finish this game because I have to play this unreleased game. But it is annoying. I mean, like we can't lie. It is annoying when you're like trying to actually finish a game for fun and then you can't. And so
it's less annoying when it's a game is going to be really good. Like let's say if a Fallout 4 falls in your lap, you go,
"Oh my god, Fallout 4."
I guess I have to review it. Of course you're going to want to, but then when a game like I don't know, Fluffy Kittens 2, you're like, I got to review Fluffy Kittens.
Or Hatred, when you're like, I guess I got to review Hatred.
Oh geez, yeah.
God damn it.
That was a dark week for me.
Speaking to the person who did review Hatred, and gave it an excellent title. That's still my favorite part of that review.
Thank you.
Anyway, so you mentioned Hearthstone. Have you tried any of the new Tavern Brawls?
I haven't actually. I've been wanting to, but I am addicted to another Blizzard game, Heroes of the Storm. I'm just all over
Blizzard's got its hooks in everybody in one way or another. Well, the first week of Tavern Brawls, I'll just talk about this briefly. I know people. I don't know if anyone ever gets annoyed by me talking about Hearthstone, but I'm self-conscious about it.
I can listen to it all day.
God, Steve's talking, hold on, let me hit the skip button. Skip forward 30 seconds. Oh, he's still talking about it. Let me hit the skip button. Yeah, but basically, the first week they change it out every week on Wednesdays, I think. So it's kind of cool. It gives you like something to look forward to every week. It kind of reminds me of when they have the adventures rolling out. And so every week you're like, oh, cool, a new set of like adventure bosses to take on every week for 5 weeks. But so it's kind of like that feeling, but like permanently, essentially. But the first week was Nefarian versus Ragnaros, which if you haven't played Black Rock Mountain, that was like the major conflict. Only you were randomly assigned either Nefarian or Ragnaros, and your opponent would always be the other one. That one was pretty cool. I liked it a lot. Nefarian was extremely overpowered. Like if you got Ragnaros, you're like, well, I'm gonna lose.
Why am I even playing?
Like it was kind of frustrating. Like you could pull out a win as Ragnaros once in a while, but it was pretty rare because basically you would be hoping that Nefarian just kind of runs out of steam, but his hero power gives him a random spell. And so if he got bad spells, then you stand a chance. But if you happen to get good spells, then it's like, well, I'm fucked. And then this week is what they called Banana Brawl, where every turn, whenever a minion dies, you get a banana, which is a random banana. So like one of them adds like 1/1 to stats. One of them swaps health and attack. One of them adds 2/2 to stats. So like there's different varieties. And that I didn't play nearly as much. I played like one round of it. No, I played 2 rounds of it, enough that I got the free card back out of it. And I was like, okay, that's enough. Because it didn't feel like there was as much variety, because as soon as I played, there's this card in Mage called Flamewaker that just like deals random damage whenever you cast a spell, and the bananas are spells. So they're giving you this constant stream of cheap spells that synergizes perfectly with these cards that like are weak but have strong effects when you cast spells. So it's just like, well, this is kind of broken. Like there's obviously like a correct solution for winning.
Right.
And so
tweak it a bit.
Yeah. So, I played it once or twice. I got my my card pack out of it. I'm like, all right, I'm fine for now. I'll wait until next week and see. Do you see what happens when I try to invite Joe?
He's a virus.
Yeah, I know. He broke it. He broke the show. All right. Apologies for the technical difficulties. I will remix it and make it work later.
It's the internet. What are you gonna do?
Yeah. I have no control over these things.
They're playing League of Legends right now. They're just taking up bandwidth everywhere.
So anyway, yeah. So I played once, and I'll get back to it later. When they launch the new one next week. But it is a cool feature that gives you a little something to look forward to every week outside of just regular play.
Yeah. Do you still enjoy regular play though? At this point,
I mean, yes and no. Like this is a complicated question. Like ranked mode, I'm sort of like growing tired of. Like every once in a while, I will get into it and be like, all right, this month is going to be the month that I make a run for legend, and I fail because it's hard, and then I give up for a few months, and that's basically it. But arena mode is basically what keeps me coming back. Like I log in every day and I do my dailies just to get the gold so that I can buy my way into arena. Because arena mode is where it's at. Like you have the randomness element. The thing about ranked is it's so meta based, and you just, if you want to be good at ranked, you kind of have to do your homework, which is why I only commit to trying to be good at it once in a while. You need to like look up what the popular decks are, and figure out ways to counter it, and blah blah blah. And it's more of a struggle. Arena mode, which I'm not excellent at, I'm okay, is more just like, hey, you pick your random cards, then you go and battle other people who have picked random cards, and so there's much less of a these are the set classes that are good, and the other classes are not good, and these are the decks that are good, etc. So yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that's what I've been playing. I've still been keeping up. Oh, and I played a little bit of that Fallout Shelter. I got a little bit of the bug. Have you played any Fallout Shelter?
I want to, but I can't find my iPad. I haven't used my iPad in years, so I have no idea where it is in the house.
Oh no!
I know it's in here somewhere. I just don't know where.
Yeah, I downloaded it like on the night they announced it, and just sort of, that was a late night. That was a crazy day. That was the day I flew to Los Angeles, and so I started the tutorial, but it was like while I was in bed, and so I like kind of half remember like doing the
one I opened. All right.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know, drag the guy to the thing.
Must play.
And so yeah, like by the time I actually like fell fully asleep, I think I didn't
by rat roaches.
I don't really remember very much. And when I started up my new my new when I started it up again the other day, I was like, I don't remember any of this. I don't know where all these rooms came from.
How did I buy so many lunch boxes?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. And suddenly I'm $50 poor. No, so yeah, basically I started a new room so that a whole new vault so that they would give me like the tutorial over again. And I'm sort of like I'm sort of stuck at this point where I've got 18 residents and I don't know how to get more in there, but I've got the space for them. But they're just not coming. I'm like, come on, everyone.
Don't they just randomly wander in? I thought from the
sometimes
video
they
they
randomly
showed.
wander in. Sometimes you have to like get your people to mate and get kids. But the kids, it seems like it takes the kids a while to grow up. So I was hoping to get them through the regular method of them just wandering in. I would prefer that, but
Like a long time, like actual human years?
no,
Or
like they'll turn 9 years old when actually 9 years have passed. No, but it takes, in terms of game time, it probably takes, I don't know, 30 minutes.
Oh, that is long.
That's just like of waiting. You're just waiting for these kids,
For the child to be an adult?
These stupid kids to grow up. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So I'm like, I want to get them by them wandering in, and they haven't really been doing that. But it's a great game for when you're doing other things, because you basically just, a lot of it is waiting for time to pass and then tapping a thing. So if I'm just watching TV or something like that, I'm like, yeah, sure, I can tap on this every once in a while and
during a commercial, just look down and do whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So let us move on to our actual topics this week.
We have topics? Holy
yes,
crap.
We have topics.
My God.
Thanks to the chatty. Our first topic, I believe this one is from Anhero. Anhero?
And
That's
here,
not,
I would think.
Yeah. Anhero, what oddball games from E3, good, bad, or hilarious bad, you found on the floor that weren't part of the schedule? I'm actually the one who went to E3. You were our erstwhile news editor.
I was at home base.
You were the head of home base. So I am the one who was kind of wandering the show floor. And I didn't actually have time generally to wander around and find odd things, but I did have some odd appointments. And so I can sort of address those. I think odd in a good way was Team 17's offerings this year. Like it wasn't at all what I expected their stuff to be. They showed me at an ID at Xbox appointment. They showed me that game about blindness beyond eyes, and then
that looks interesting.
Yeah, and then I had a separate appointment on Thursday afternoon where I was just like, I don't know what I'm seeing. It's Team 17, and I came in and I said like, hey, I've already seen Beyond Eyes. What else is there? And they showed me this other game called Sheltered, where it's like old retro style, but you're like, it's post-apocalypse, not a zombie apocalypse, but post-apocalypse, and you're like the parents in this. Well, you're the whole family really in this fallout shelter. And you send people out to go exploring and get supplies. As soon as the game starts, one of your children are sick. So you have to like look for medicine. That's like one of your first goals is to secure medicine. People will just wander by and you can, invite them in to help you to basically be another warm body to help with chores and things like that. They actually have like, when you're out wandering the wastes, you can confront people and you have like a bunch of different options of like, well, do you want to like threaten them or bully them or trade with them or ask them to join you? And there's a bunch of different ways that can all go down. It seems like a simple set of tools that allows for a lot of flexibility, and it seems really cool. So that was actually a big surprise because the surprise was this is Team 17,
Yeah, they do worms, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what everybody said. It's like every time I had one of these like very serious appointments, I was like, "Really, Team 17?" And they're like, "Yeah, I know. You're thinking worms, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
Where are they? Where are the worms?
Yeah. So like they are pushing more into doing these like very serious, mature type of games to, I think, kind of escape their image as just the worms guys.
Right.
And both of those games look really kind of interesting and cool. So. That was sort of a pleasant surprise in a good way. A sort of weird surprise, I would say, was when I showed up for my Cubicle Ninjas appointment, and I wasn't sure what that was. This wasn't weird in a bad way, but it was not what I was expecting. They were like, all right, we've got VR experiences, because VR was the huge thing this year. Everybody knows. They said we've got VR experiences, and it was a tour of Venice, Italy, and then like a meditation. So there was no game. Like I was never controlling anything, and there were no goals. Um, I mean, I was controlling something in that I moved my head to look at different things, and that would prompt like different speech bubbles about Venice. But that was it. That was like the extent of the interaction.
That's weird.
So it is weird that that was at E3. But if you're going to show off something that VR related, this was the year to do it, and it was pretty cool.
So it was like a guided tour in a way. Like, let's say you're at a museum. Oh, this painting.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was of the whole city, and so like the first thing you saw, this is actually kind of freaky. The first thing you saw was like you put on the headset, and then it was like, okay, start the tour. You just saw like a face, just like if it were in real life, it would be like 4 inches from your nose, and you're just like that,
Welcome.
And it wasn't like extremely well rendered. It was like maybe like PS2 level graphics because they're it's not like a great. This isn't like a big company or something. They're not going to use like Unreal Engine or whatever. But
right.
But like they were wearing a mask because this was the exhibit on Venetian masks, and then you start turning your head, and these people in masks are all around you.
Oh my god!
In like that same distance away, and you're supposed to like look at each mask, and they explain like what this mask was used for because masks were a big thing in like Renaissance Venice. So like it was cool. It was a cool exhibit. But to give you an idea of how the exhibit was, like you just like see a giant face. Like,
yeah, that's kind of you should tell them, look, just dial it back like
maybe
3
like
inches.
Stand a little further away. And then once you were done with that, you would like move on to the next thing, and they had like the lion that got all messed up while it was being moved and things like that. And it ended with this like canal, like you were on a canal tour, when they do the rowing. I don't know. But yeah, it was pretty cool. It was like okay, this is not as polished as a lot of the games we're seeing here. This is a small company, but it's showing different applications for VR. And if VR is the future, as everybody, including us, is kind of predicting, it's going to be that it has more applications than just being gaming. It's got to. So
when you in the boat, did you feel somebody spraying you with a bottle of water just to get the? Oh,
no, I don't know if they could tell. I don't know if they could tell when I was in the boat. I did just kind of like
they didn't want
to
see this.
Lifting off the headphones, and that's how they knew to lift off the rest.
Oh, okay.
That would be pretty funny though. They're just like just the guy standing there going caw caw.
He's on the boat stage. All right. Oh wow. 10 out of 10.
Yeah. That would be cheating though. That's not quite right. I think the only other thing that I can speak about that was sort of a surprise in some way is my Shinra appointment. This was kind of an oddball thing, and that it was they basically invited a lot of media to see this thing that wasn't really a game. It was the tech being used to make games, and they had some developers there talking about what they're doing with it. But have you heard anything about Shinra, our erstwhile newsman? What do you know about it? Because what I knew about it was completely wrong. Curious, what if anything you've heard about it?
Well, I know of the technology. Like it's a cloud-based computing thing.
Yes. Yeah. And when you hear that, my thought was, oh, okay, they're doing OnLive. It's Square is doing their own OnLive. Okay, cool, whatever. But what they're actually trying to do, and this is all very. I'm still going to be doing a write-up for this. I got an interview with the president of the company and stuff like that. I think it shows a lot of promise, and they're talking about it in these very lofty terms. And so if it works out, it's going to be really cool. Time will tell if it works out. Basically, instead of just being a service that streams the content to you, it's also being used on the developer end. So the games themselves are running on these computers that are like absurdly more powerful than anything that a consumer could actually have. And so the developers that they invited were saying like, we've always wanted to do X, Y, or Z, but we couldn't because we have to sort of plan for the amount of power that users actually have. But with this, since we're basically just playing the game on a what they're calling them supercomputers, we're playing the game on this super powerful computer and just streaming it to you, we can do whatever we want. We can do we can do crazy things. So the examples they used were like one was, having tons and tons of AI characters all sort of operating independently. You can't really do that. One was like having actual water with physics models, instead of they were saying like, when you see it in Assassin's Creed and things like that, it looks right because they're really good at faking it, and part of game development is faking it. But for this pirate game we're making, we want to have like actual water physics, like when you fire a cannon, it'll create a little wake, and things will be affected by that little wake,
Right.
So things like that. So like that was an oddball appointment that I was like, I don't really know what this thing is. I'm going to go see this thing. But it was interesting, and I feel like it's got potential. I'm going to be curious to see how they do with it.
Are they gearing that service strictly to consoles, or are they going to focus on PC
they
as well?
didn't actually talk about where their distribution is going to be. There was sort of a hint that they're trying to get in with the console makers, but it sounds like for now, PC is the open platform. So for now, PC is like the obvious one. But it seems like they would like to get onto consoles too. That's the impression that I got, at least.
Right. Well, and since it's streaming, I would assume that then, like let's say gaming laptops or even ultrabooks can access it, or do they need some kind of specifications?
I don't actually know. They didn't go into that level of technical detail. It was a lot of, like I said, it was a lot of pie in the sky. Like, here's the things that we could potentially do, and here's some developers to talk about what they are doing. And, things like that. It sounds like the launch is actually still probably I would say a solid year away. So yeah, it's all very nebulous at the moment.
I mean, that would definitely be cool if I could be on a tablet, let's say, or something really low powered, and then have that kind of access.
Yeah. I mean, like that's the idea, right? Like that no matter what console you're on, no matter what machine you're using, you can, access these really high fidelity, or even beyond just high fidelity, these games that are doing just technical things with AI or whatever that doesn't usually happen. The example that I thought of that they didn't actually say, but that I thought of when they talked about having all these independent AI characters was Assassin's Creed, which is famous for having these crowds, but the crowds are kind of dumb.
Right.
Like if you had the amount of power required to, have them all sort of have their own routines and goals that are just sort of inner working, that could be really cool. Same thing that kind of Bethesda does with like Fallout and Skyrim. They have all these characters that are kind of living their lives.
You could follow them and you could see what they're going to do all day.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it could be really cool. And it's sort of interesting that it's like a hybrid of like a publisher, because they're required to be on board with the developer to make this thing work. It's like a hybrid of a publisher and middleware and a distribution model, like all mixed into one thing. And I think that's kind of an interesting business model that we haven't really seen before.
Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah. So anyway, those were my sort of oddball things. I didn't really see anything bad oddball. I'd say the oddest bad thing that happened wasn't really a game. It was that when I went to, I won't name drop the booth because I feel like that'd be rude, but there was a booth that I went to that they didn't have special demo stations set up for press, and so there was people waiting in line to play these games, and so the person would just bring me up to the demo kiosk and just like shoo away the people who were waiting. And they're like, "We have a press appointment. Go here, go." And I'm just like, at one point I felt terrible. And at one point I just looked at one of the girls that was waiting to play this game, and I just said like, "I'm sorry."
but I waited all year for this.
Yeah, like I really want to play this game, and I'm like, nope.
I waited 12 hours. Nope.
And it's like, I didn't choose to make the press appointment in this way. This is just apparently how they do this. So yeah, that was
and get to the back
a little awkward.
Get to the back. You have to line up again.
Yeah, I mean, come on, just set up one TV that's like behind a wall or something, and make that the press TV. Yeah, it was weird. But moving on. This one I think is from Himtrol. Given free reign to create any reasonably realistic HoloLens experience, or to couple it with an existing game, what would you create? I actually experienced a little bit of HoloLens at E3. It wasn't enough for a write-up, so I made a chatty thread about it. It was basically just as part of the Halo thing, they put a thing on your head and said, go check out this waypoint. And it was actually pretty cool because seeing a waypoint in real life and having it like get closer and then do like thing when you hit it, but like all that stuff happening in real life, that was actually pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
But when you're standing still, it's less impressive because you start moving your head around and being like, oh, okay, if I move my head like very slightly, like an inch upwards, then the bottom of the screen gets cut off, and I don't see that thing anymore.
Yeah, I read the field of view for that thing is
It's
really small.
pretty small. Yeah, they've got to expand that for the final release. But let's imagine that is solved and that it covers your entire field of view. What would you do with HoloLens? Let's say you're a developer. What would you create?
Well, Microsoft already kind of showed us Minecraft.
I realized midway through that
HoloLens.
question, like the kinds of jokes that Chatty would make about you specifically
Yeah,
having
yeah.
access to augmented reality.
That is true. You know what? I probably would do what they expect me to do. But if you don't know those jokes,
let's make a detour around those obvious jokes. And
I mean, you can make a whole thread about it, and I'll jump in. But let's keep it simple for the new folk.
yeah.
Minecraft would definitely be a very cool thing to see, just to see kind of like, something that you want to build right in front of you, and you can manipulate it in
they showed
certain
that
ways.
at Microsoft, the way that they lifted it up to look underneath. I think that was kind of. I suspect that was bullshit. Like that demo doesn't actually exist in that way.
Mm-hmm.
But as a target demo for something they'd like to do with that tech, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a pretty cool application. I think that things like HoloLens, you sort of think of it as first person because it is. You're using your own eyes, so it seems to go analog with first person experiences the most. I feel like if you gave that to, let's say, a developer like the developer of Gone Home, mm-hmm. and they somehow made an experience like that that's very story focused but takes place inside your own house, mm-hmm. and you're looking for like the clue puzzle boxes or whatever within your own home.
Right.
And they somehow
it's like a VR box.
Yeah, exactly. Like they somehow tie that into the narrative, that like this is your experience that you're having. I think that could be really cool. That would be my sort of dream game, using that tech. Or just give me like AR Hearthstone. Like let me let me wave my hands and move the cards around. Yeah, there you go.
I was gonna mention. Tabletop games would be pretty cool using HoloLens. You could just have you and your friends with HoloLens, and then just let's say you download a new tabletop game, and you could just kind of play it, on the floor or however. I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I joked about Hearthstone, but really, when you think about it, like the thing that makes Hearthstone kind of special for me, and I think for a lot of people, is that it's a CCG, but it does a lot of things that would either be tough to track in real life or just downright impossible. Mm-hmm. Like when they introduced the new dragon mechanic, it was like if you have a dragon, deal this much damage or whatever. It's like that's a thing that they can do because you have a computer acting as the referee, and it can tell that you actually do have a dragon in your hand. Mm-hmm. If you were playing in real life, there would have to be some confirmation mechanism. Like it would have to be show your cards to a judge or show your cards to the other player.
Right, right.
So it has like a lot of little elements that are only possible because it's digital. And so if you started thinking about that in terms of just tabletop games in general, how we could figure out a way to augment existing experiences, things that we already kind of play, like Dominion or Risk or whatever, game types, not those games specifically, but game types that we already play, and give them a twist that only works in a digital space. That's what HoloLens could be pretty awesome about.
I wonder if you could kind of, let's say you have somebody in your home that that you want to give a new look, let's say. I wonder if you could like put like another body, AR like body, like
HoloLens plastic surgery is what you're suggesting?
Yeah, pretty much. I want to see this person a certain way, like I don't know, like
I've always wanted
a furry.
I've always wanted my spouse's head, but on a furry body, and they won't spring for the costume. So,
well, I wanted her to be palm sized. I wanted her to be tiny. I don't know.
I want to be able to hold her in my hand.
I don't know. I get weird thoughts sometimes.
So let's move on to our final user suggested topic. He asks, "What's the most exciting E3 reveal that you've been a part of?" I like watching the entire audience go crazy for Zelda reveals or whatever. That's sort of the famous example, you know?
Mhm.
So he says, let's hear a cool memory. The famous example is the Zelda reveal, which I was not a part of, but everyone has seen that video, right? Like,
Yeah.
of Zelda fans just totally losing their shit over seeing realistic Zelda after was it after Wind Waker? I think it was when they first revealed Twilight Princess, which ironically was not as good as Wind Waker.
I wonder which will be a bigger reaction, that or the Final Fantasy VII.
Well, that's
people reacting.
Yeah, like that's what I saw. You know, I wasn't there at the Sony conference personally, but I saw that this year. You know, on the stream, just like people just like, and you know, that when they had the Shenmue reveal, there was literally a guy like going like this, like like hands in his hair, like eyes wide open.
Too extreme.
Yeah, like he couldn't handle it, you know. So that Sony conference in general was just like big reveal, big reveal, big reveal, and I think that sort of blew people's minds a little bit, and there were some pretty fun reactions. I was actually in attendance at the Bethesda conference. And there's always, you know, some hooting and hollering, but you could kind of feel a palpable sense of like, oh my god, when they were like when they were showing off Fallout 4, because you know obviously there's a bunch of fans there too. It's not just press, and even if it was just press,
we would still act that same way.
Has a tendency to act like slightly unprofessional at these things.
Yeah.
And be like, woo!
I'm not biased or anything. No.
I restricted myself to the golf clap. I'll say that. I was like, good job, Pete Hines. Yes, that was.
No, I was twirling my shirt.
You're a capable public speaker. Congratulations.
He actually did pretty well. I'm surprised how well he did.
I actually think he did really well. I think I hold like Jack Tretton from Sony as like the gold standard of giving an E3 presentation, because he was just like so like naturally charming and just came off as a very genuine guy. And I think Pete Hines was like actually like pretty close to that, you know?
Yeah. Like he was up on the seats in the upper area with his iPad. He's like, sorry, you know, I'm just here playing a game.
I've seen Pete Hines at other presentations, and you know, like just when I've gone to Bethesda for whatever reason. I think it was for like ESO. And you know, he always struck me as like an affable guy, but just his persona putting on that presentation was really good. Yeah. And yeah, I think people freaked out over Fallout. I think my most personally witnessed freak out moment was when I went to the Sony conference 2 years ago with the late Andrew Yoon. He got me in, and then I've mentioned this story before. When news started breaking and it was clear we would not get reception from inside the building, he left so that I could stay there and see it, because it was my first time ever being to one of those. So that was a very sweet thing that he did. But that was the conference that Sony was just like sticking it to Microsoft, you know, over and over again, like the price point and the DRM and like all that stuff. And I was actually sitting like next to Jeff Gerstmann from Giant Bomb on one side and a few other journals on the other side. And we were pretty close to the front. And we were doing the polite golf clap thing, you know, but like maybe 1 or 2 rows behind us for the rest of the theater was people just like freaking the fuck out. Like when they announced the DRM thing, somebody actually like stood up like it was like a Def Jam rap battle and was like, no, like.
I always get that sense
like,
from PlayStation.
Everyone.
From PlayStation press conferences, I always feel like there are a lot more of that. I mean, in the Microsoft one, there's like a little bit, but PlayStation's always the crowd is always so rowdy. I don't know why. Yeah. I mean, they've engendered that kind of following, and I think they kind of encourage it with the way they drop their announcements. Microsoft tried to capture that this year with their like backwards compatibility, and we're never going to charge you for games you already own, and like that was them trying to do a Sony jab, but they just didn't do it quite as. They didn't do it quite as directly, I think. You know, like Sony, exactly.
When Sony was sticking it to Microsoft, they were like super blunt. They didn't say
they named names.
Yeah, they didn't.
Bill Gates, Sony.
F you, Phil Harrison. You know, like they were really like all about it. But yeah, it was like the entire like theater was just like erupting and freaking out, and it was like I said, it was like you were in a rap battle, and people were like standing up and hooting and hollering and stuff like that. So that was the most that was the most crazy reaction I've seen during a press conference, both ever, and also in real life.
Mhm.
Like I haven't seen a lot of them in real life, but that one actually tops all the ones that I've seen digitally too. Even the Shenmue reaction didn't quite stack up to an entire theater of people.
Right, right.
Yeah.
The
So
one thing I love about attending those press conferences is just the presentation and also the sound. I mean, if you're home playing a game and you have headphones on, you can get like a decent sound, but to hear a huge theater with the
mhm.
booming bass and like the music and if you hear gunfire, it's just so loud and you
Yeah,
feel
yeah.
like you're really, really into it.
Well, that's the thing about attending the every year when we have Call of Duty appointments, Activision appointments. The way that Activision does their appointments at E3, a little behind the curtain here, they've got the stuff up front for exhibitors and visitors and stuff like that, and then there's the press check-in. You basically go upstairs to an entirely separate area that has its own little theaters. And every year, the Call of Duty appointment is set in this room that I don't know how many like base units they put in that room.
All of them.
but you're watching this presentation, it's just like doom, doom, like over and over again for like 30 minutes. It actually was Steven and I when we went last year. It was so it was so relentless with that it put us to sleep. It was like the loudest thing that I've ever like fallen asleep during. It was like a solid 30 straight minutes of just like nonstop gunfire, and it was after a while it just gets monotonous, and you're just like, it's this air conditioned little dark room. Yeah, but that's how E3 works, everyone. You're already tired, and then sometimes they put you in air conditioned little dark rooms. Anyway, so that is the show. That is our sort of E3 wrap up. So before we go, we're going to talk a little bit about what we have planned for the weekend. So Daniel, what are you up to this weekend?
Well, my birthday was this past Tuesday. So
Yes, happy birthday. Everyone tell Daniel happy birthday.
Thank
Hold
you.
on, everyone.
Yes,
I mentioned the
that's what I was
chat.
waiting for. So this weekend, I believe I'm going to my brother's house to hang out with my family for birthday celebration. Since we were
older brother, younger brother?
older. I have two older brothers. One is, I believe, or I think a year and a half older than me, and then I have one that's 6 years older. So I usually hang out with them and the rest of the family for birthday stuff. But gaming wise, I'll still be playing Batman Arkham Knight. Like I said, I'm like 2, maybe 3 hours into it, so I definitely want to progress at least through the story and then get back to my Witcher. And Heroes of the Storm, like I said, I'm really getting into it. Just like Steve here, I've been doing the daily quest.
Yep. We need to trade accounts.
Yeah,
I've
we do.
proposed this before. I think you think I'm kidding. I'm definitely not. I want that card.
I will trade. I mean, if you want that card back, I want that mount.
Yeah, yeah. For people who don't know what we're talking about, if you reach a certain level in Heroes of the Storm, you get a card back in Hearthstone, and if you reach a certain level in Hearthstone, you get a mount in Heroes of the Storm. So yeah, it's like the dumbest mount though. Like you're riding on the back of a card.
Is it really? I saw one that was like a magic looked like a magic carpet. I don't know if that's
it's the back. It's the legendary card back, but you're just riding on top of it.
Well, I still want it. I want people to know I got it as I'm zooming across the map
after the show. Anyway,
as I'm running away from enemies, I want them to go. Oh,
I'm gonna be like, oh, that guy's played a lot of Hearthstone. And you're like, no, I haven't. Anyway, I'm going to be receiving my parents this weekend. They're coming over to see the Babby. But other than that, yeah, just playing Batman, keeping up with my dailies in Hearthstone, just like the normal things that I do. Hopefully, I can finish Batman in the next week or so. I'm kind of afraid of like not getting in front of the spoilers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's definitely one of those games that I want to discover things for myself, and as more time passes, I'm like, uh-oh, people are finishing it.
Yeah.
This is not good for me. So yeah, that is the show, and please review us on iTunes if you have not yet. We will be back next week for our 52nd show, which means a full year of shows.
That's crazy.
That's a pretty big deal. I remember we started this insane thing right after E3 last year, so it all comes around. So that is the show. Go back and listen to our E3 roundup show that we did with Show Important if you haven't yet. And for Daniel Perez, I am Steve Watts, and we will see you on Chatty.